Good afternoon, I'm Mr. Lang, and today we're going to be talking about domains and ranges, and I'm going to show you guys a few different ways to be able to tell what your domain of a function is and how to find the range also by looking at graphs and their equations. So you've heard of domains and ranges before, but you haven't necessarily ever been able to tell how to find them. Like they'll give you the domain x's and they'll give you some range y's, but you can never get them by yourself without them giving you the numbers already. So let's pretend we're given the function just y equals x. The most basic one is just a line that goes. And so how would you go about finding that domain and range? Well, the domain you have to know to start is all the x values in the function, and your range is all your y values in the function. So if you want to know what x values you can have in this function, the first way you can do it is just by plugging in. If you plug like into y equals x, if you plug in 1 for x, you're going to get out of 1 for y. And so if you plug in 2 for x, you're going to get out of 2 for y. So really you can look at it, and the way to do it is you have to find in what numbers you can't get out of it. Like what could you plug in, what numbers could you get out of it that you can't plug in to get? And really with y equals x, you're going to be able to plug in any number and get that number right back. So for y equals x, the domain is going to be all real numbers because you can plug in any x value and you're still going to get a y value. And when you start to talk about the range of y equals x, it's going to be the same because you can plug in any y value and you're going to have an x somewhere since they're the same. So you have all real numbers from negative infinity to infinity that are all going to work in this equation. So when you look at this right here, you can look at the graph of y equals x, which is just a line just like this, and I only went from negative 5 to 5. But as you can see, when you plug in a negative 5, you get a negative 5 out. So this line goes on forever and ever, infinitely big and infinitely negative, both positively and negatively. It's going to go on. So that shows you that you can plug in any x and any y to get any y. Like you can plug in any x and get any y out. So that tells you that your domain and range is all real numbers just by looking at the graph. So when you begin to look at the graph of y equals x squared, like I said before, you can't get negative numbers because you're squaring your x's. So as you look at it, it's the same on the right as it is on the left. And if you plug in a 1, you get a 1. And you plug in a 2, you get 4. And a 3, you get 9. And if you plug in negative 1, you still get 1. Negative 2, you're still going to get 4. And negative 3, you're still going to get 9. So you can see that you're going to be able to plug in every x value you want, but you're not going to be able to get any y value you want. So this graph explains that the range is only numbers 0 or greater, and that the domain is still all real numbers because you can still plug in any x you want to get any positive y, but you can't get negative y's. That's why the range is all numbers greater than 0. So different from the last function we talked about, when you start to think about y equals x squared and think about the domain and range for that, it's going to be a little different. And just by plugging in numbers, you can tell what you're not going to be able to do. So obviously you can still plug in any x, but if you plug in like a 0, you get 0. Plug in a 5, you're going to get 25 because 5 squared is 25. But if you plug in a negative 5, you're still going to get 25. And so you can tell no matter what you plug in, you're always going to get positive numbers. Or 0. 0, everything greater than 0, because you can't get out a negative number because you're squaring the function. So everything squared is going to be positive, so you'll never get a negative y value. So the domain for this one's still going to be the same since you can plug in any x value you want, but the range is only going to be all numbers greater than 0 because you can't get negative numbers for this function because everything squared is positive. So the domain is all real numbers, but then the range is all numbers greater than 0 for this one. Well, that's all I have for you guys on domain and range, so I hope you guys all got that question right that I just gave you, and I hope this was very beneficial. You guys will take a quiz on this very soon, and then we'll see how much you really took out of this video, so thanks.